It's time to pull out the tools. Hey campers, Mark here from overlandtrailer.com, and in this video we're actually going to start fabricating your custom teardrop trailer frame. Now as you dig into your custom build, the first thing you're going to want to do is to take this raw steel and be able to cut it down to the lengths that you need based off of the plan and the design that you've already come up with. Once you have that ready, then you're going to want to drill a bunch of holes and prep it for welding, and there's several steps that go into that, and that's what we're going to cover here in this video. Now the very first thing is just to get your cuts. Now there's a bunch of different ways you can cut those out. You can cut them with a steel cutting bandsaw, which is going to be super accurate, but it's going to be slow, and it may be something that you don't necessarily have in your garage. The second thing is to go with the angle grinder. The advantage of this is they're fairly inexpensive. You can get all sorts of different cutoff wheels to do a variety of different functions throughout this process on this one tool, which is nice, it's multi-purpose. But then the downside of that is that it's really hard to be accurate with an angle grinder to get 45-degree cuts or 25-degree cuts or whatever you need. A larger version, I would say, of the angle grinder is an abrasive cutoff saw, which works like a wood chop saw, but it has an abrasive wheel in it. But it is definitely not as accurate as a bandsaw because that will move some and it makes a terrible mess, but it gets the job done. And the last one that I'll mention is a cold cut saw, which is like a chop saw for your wood, but it runs at a different RPMs, and it has a steel cutting blade on it that will actually make chips out of your steel as it cuts instead of grindings. Now the advantages of the chop saw is that it doesn't leave all this dust everywhere like you do with the abrasive saws, and it's fairly accurate. Now once you've cut everything to length and you've got maybe your 45s in the corners done and you've got all your cross pieces and all of that stuff cut, be sure to do a dry fit. Lay it out and make sure that everything is there and that everything fits. Don't weld it yet. Save yourself a ton of time by going straight into drilling. Luna, stop. Stop being annoying. Before you weld together the trailer, it's so much easier to drill when you're going straight down into a material with a hand drill or with a drill press than it is after it's all welded up and you're having to drill from the side, or you have this big awkward frame that you're having to move around so that you can get an 1/8-inch hole drilled in it. And then drill holes for all the things you need. You're going to need holes for your wiring to mount the teardrop body to the frame, potentially your coupler if you're going to bolt your coupler onto your trailer frame, for your axle mounts if you're going to be bolting them on, for your fenders, the lights that you're going to put on the outside. So quick pro tip on drilling the holes in your trailer frame: use as few size holes as possible. It forces you to use a more uniform set of hardware. So I can buy a box of 1/4 inch anything in various lengths and they will all fit through this one size hole. And that also means that my sockets, everything is going to be the same size, and I shouldn't need as many tools to do maintenance on the trailer in the future. If I'm going to stick a single wire through the frame, I'm going to do it through a 3/8-inch hole that has a grommet in it to cushion that wire. If I'm sending more than one wire through, it's going to be a 1/2-inch bit with a bit of wire loom to cushion the wire. And then just preserve your bits with some sort of lubricant. I like this stick wax. It's great because you can use it upside down and all sorts of different angles, but you could also use an oil. So another good tip is I just drilled this 1/4 inch hole. If I'm going to be going to a 1/2 inch, then I would start with a 1/4 inch and I would slowly work my way up in sizes until I could put the 1/2 inch through here. That will also help preserve your bits. Now one tool I find absolutely invaluable when it comes to drilling holes is a spring punch. There's a big spring inside here, and the tip, when you push down, the spring will punch for you, and you only need one hand to run it and to dimple the steel so that your drill bit doesn't move all around all over the place. It's a fairly inexpensive tool. I'll put a link to it down below. We have one last step, and that is simply to bevel the joints. So wherever there's going to be a weld, you want to make sure you knock off the edges of all of those so that you can get the weld nice and deep into the material and penetrate that weld all the way through. And that is easiest done by the old angle grinder, one of my favorite tools. So now that all your raw materials have been cut and holes drilled in them, you're going to need to touch some of the manufactured parts that are going to go onto your trailer frame and prep them for welding as well. So I'll start with a coupler, And often the coupler will come with a finish on it. In fact, all of these parts might, and that means you need to remove the finish from all of these. Then there may be some other things you need to do to this coupler to prep it for welding, whether it's grinding bevels in it or something like that, get that ready. A popular option with our customers is to put a 2-foot hitch receiver on the back end of their trailer frame so that they can still have a bike rack or something like that off the back of their teardrop. This would also need to be prepped for it. You may also want to fab up some little brackets or something like that to reinforce it on the frame. Your axle system, and I have 2 of them here. Your axle system would also need to be prepped, and that could be for like a timber and off-road axle-less system. It could be cutting bevels into the mating surfaces where it's going to hit the frame. Make sure you can get a nice deep weld in that. For a spring axle, these actually come with hangers that have bolts in them, so you can bolt this on just like you can bolt this one on, but you can also weld it on, and I would probably also put bevels on these. And last but not least, you're going to want to prepare your fenders. And they should look like this, not necessarily this shape, but bare steel. You don't want to buy a fender that has some sort of coating on it or paint, whatever that is, because it's a giant pain to clean off. You're going to want to put the holes in here for mounting it to the frame of your trailer or through the body of your camper. If you're going to put lighting, like your tail lights or something off of this, make sure you have the holes prepped for that, and any reinforcement you want to put on the inside, you can do that as well. So now that you've got everything prepped to weld, of course, the very next step is to weld it. If you're liking this series, check out this video, which is all about planning your teardrop trailer frame, design, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I like bringing you to work, but you gotta stop chewing on the cords, okay?